We think we know the Earth. Satellites photograph every square meter of it. Submersibles have reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Geologists have mapped every tectonic plate. And yet, one entire continent is still hiding lakes nobody has ever seen, scars from catastrophes nobody has explained, and life for which we have no category. The emptiest place on the planet. No cities, no roads, no permanent population. Wind up to 300 kilometers per hour, minus 80 in winter. 4 kilometers of ice underfoot. And right here, more unsolved scientific questions than on any other continent. The emptiness turns out to be very densely packed. We drilled into one lake and found life that exists nowhere else on Earth. We looked at satellite images and saw something that's very uncomfortable to call just rocks. We started measuring the melt and realized our models had been too optimistic. Every new instrument brings not answers, but different questions. You're watching Academic Troll, the channel for people who want to know more without being bored to death in the process. Like, subscribe. Let's go. Mystery 1. Blood Falls. What bleeds out of a glacier? 1911, Taylor Valley. An expedition is crossing a glacier when bright red liquid begins pouring out of a white wall. Thick, powerful, the color of fresh blood. It looks like something arranged in industrial-scale slaughter under the ice. The name came immediately and accurately. Blood Falls. The explanation came later. Extremely salty brine that had been sitting under the glacier for over 1 million years, in complete darkness, without oxygen. It's loaded with iron. When it hits the air, it oxidizes, turns red. Like rust, only considerably more dramatic. And living inside this brine, extremophile bacteria that feed on sulfates, need no light, and survive conditions where any normal organism wouldn't last a second. These bacteria aren't just a strange find. They rewrite the map of where life is possible. If it can sit for 1 million years in a salty, dark, poisonous trap under a glacier and not go anywhere, then the boundary of habitable is drawn in completely the wrong place. The brine flows, the internet loses its mind, scientists measure and take samples, and every time it reappears, there's one question that follows it out. What else is sitting in the dark down there? And how long has it been waiting? Mystery number 2. Subglacial lakes. 400 worlds nobody invited. Picture this. Right underneath you, right now. More than 400 lakes. Some the size of Lake Superior's smaller cousins. All cut off from the surface for millions of years. No light, no oxygen in any form you'd recognize. Pressure like the deep ocean floor. And yet liquid water, because salt and pressure won't let it freeze. You didn't know. Antarctica didn't ask. The most famous is Lake Vostok. 4 kilometers of ice overhead, sealed away for millions of years. In 2012, Russian scientists finally drilled through. And when they broke in, the pressure dropped, water shot upward and mixed with the drilling fluid. Kerosene, Freon. Scientists sterilized everything they could reach. In the samples, one species of bacteria whose DNA matches no known organism on Earth by less than 86%. Scientists carefully call this unclassified life. Some colleagues say contamination. Others say no. Something is living there. That part is not disputed. What exactly? Still open. Lake Vostok's conditions almost perfectly match what scientists predict on Europa, Jupiter's moon. Liquid water under ice, total darkness, crushing pressure. If life sat here in complete darkness for millions of years and simply refused to leave, that's not proof we're not alone. It's the most serious argument we've ever found. Mystery number 3. The Pyramids of Antarctica. When nature tries too hard. In the Ellsworth Mountains, in one of the most inaccessible parts of Antarctica, satellite images show 4 structures with nearly perfectly flat faces and sharp edges, up to 800 meters tall, positioned as if they once formed a single complex. The standard explanation: nunataks, mountain peaks that wind and ice have been grinding down for millions of years. Natural formation, erosion, nothing unusual. Scientists say this with the expression of people who are mildly tired of explaining the same thing. But here's the problem. Those same scientists acknowledge that Antarctica was once warm, had forests, and theoretically had conditions for life tens of millions of years ago. In other words, the continent where nothing could have existed actually went through climate epochs during which anything could have happened. That's not proof of pyramids, but it's an honest answer to what if. Every time someone tries to organize an independent expedition to that area, technical complications arise, weather restrictions appear, or environmental permits become an issue. Maybe coincidence. Antarctica is generally not welcoming to uninvited guests. Nature does strange things. Just how strange? The standard explanation prefers not to specify. Mystery number 4. The Wilkes Land anomaly, the scar from the end of the world. 250 million years ago, the Permian-Triassic extinction, the largest catastrophe in the history of life on Earth. Around 81% of marine species gone, more than 70% of land species, near total reset. What caused it is still debated. Most scientists point to the Siberian Traps volcanism, but there's another hypothesis. Under the Antarctic ice sheet lies a gravitational anomaly roughly 500 kilometers across, one of the largest on the entire planet. Scientists call it the Wilkes Land anomaly, and allow for the possibility that it's an impact crater from a massive asteroid that hit around 250 million years ago and triggered that extinction. No direct proof yet, but the anomaly is there. That's not in dispute. Gravitational measurements show strange density variations. Each new satellite adds detail. The crater hypothesis remains exactly that, a hypothesis. Geology moves slowly. So does acknowledgement. What exactly is lying down there? Science can't yet say precisely. Antarctica has been carrying this scar for 250 million years. Quietly, under 4 kilometers of ice. Like someone who lived through something so catastrophic, they simply stopped talking about it. Mystery number 5. The dry valleys. Mars under our feet. There is a part of Antarctica with no ice. None at all. For millions of years. The McMurdo Dry Valleys are the driest place on Earth, drier than any desert. Humidity near zero, wind strips everything away, no snowfalls. Temperature swings from -50 to +15, and total absolute emptiness. NASA tests its Mars rovers here. The conditions are as close as Earth gets to what awaits a machine on the red planet. The most unsettling thing found in the valleys? Mummified seals. Hundreds of them. Lying dozens of kilometers from the sea. Some found 65 kilometers from the nearest water. Some of them thousands of years old. The seals wandered in somehow, died, and their bodies didn't decompose, weren't buried by snow. They simply dried out, as if vacuum sealed. They lie there staring into the endless cold with empty eye sockets. Scientists call it unique natural mummification. It looks like an illustration for the word forever. Almost no life here, only rare microorganisms in the soil, and even those barely. This is a place where the planet demonstrates that it can kill everything, and then preserve the evidence of that killing for thousands of years. Mars is under our feet, just very, very cold. Mystery number 6, the singing glacier. Antarctica talks to itself. Antarctica doesn't just bleed, it also sings. The Ross Ice Shelf, the largest floating ice shelf on the planet, the size of France, produces low-frequency sounds you can record and hear. The ice moves, cracks, fractures under pressure. From this come unsettling melodies. A low rumble shifts into piercing screams. Mechanical grinding slides into something close to electronic music. Scientists installed seismometers and hydrophones under the ice and now literally listen to the continent talking to itself. The sounds travel hundreds of kilometers. Between 2020 and 2025, particularly powerful series were recorded as large sections of the shelf began to break off, detected on other continents. Scientists explained it calmly. Physics of ice under pressure, nothing mystical. The glacier moves, cracks, breaks apart. Sound is just a side effect, which is itself unpleasant enough news that you wouldn't want to hear it. Thousands of square kilometers of ice singing the symphony of their own destruction, loudly enough to be heard across the ocean. Antarctica is issuing a warning. The question is whether you've got your headphones in. Mystery number 7. Ancient forests, when the South Pole was a jungle. Antarctica had several forest epochs. The oldest traces? Permian forests, more than 260 million years old, fossilized tree trunks found in the transantarctic mountains. Later, around 90 million years ago, rainforests again. Average annual temperature around 12 degrees Celsius, 4 months of polar night, and thick, swampy jungle anyway. In 2017, scientists pulled a core of sediment from the seafloor near Pine Island Glacier and found inside it a perfectly preserved network of roots, pollen, and spores, published in Nature in 2020. In both cases, the same place where dead ice now sits a kilometer thick. This isn't just it used to be warm. This was a full tropical paradise at the South Pole, where today a bacterium wouldn't survive without a specialized suit. And then the continent drifted, the climate shifted, the forest died, and ice settled on top. Slowly, over millions of years. Every new piece of fossilized wood is a page from the planet's diary with a calm notation. I've been through this before, there and back. Antarctica is thawing now, and these trees are slowly emerging, as if the continent has decided to show its past at precisely the moment we are accelerating its future. The timing, of course, is coincidental. Just how it worked out. Mystery number 8. Organism 46b. The myth that made itself at home. When in 2012, scientists drilled 3,769 meters of ice and reached Lake Vostok, a legend leaked online immediately. Allegedly, along with the bacteria, they found something much larger and more dangerous, Organism 46b, a giant octopus capable of changing shape, paralyzing prey at a distance, and having killed several expedition members. Allegedly, attempts were made to bring it to the surface. Officially, complete fabrication. Russian and Western scientists denied it immediately and unambiguously. The octopus does not exist. What does exist is more awkward. The real findings were strange enough to grow a myth on. One species of bacteria with DNA resembling nothing in any international database. Not 86% match, not 70%, less. Possible viruses. Traces of an ecosystem that's been running in complete isolation for millions of years. Scientists argue about contamination, which is a very reasonable thing to argue about when you've just drilled through 4 kilometers of ice with kerosene and freon, and then put your sampling equipment into what might be the most pristine body of water on Earth. No octopus, but a lake where life is impossible by every rule we know, and life is there anyway. Honestly, that's already enough to be uncomfortable about. Mystery number 9. The restricted zones, where they don't let us go. In Antarctica, there are areas ordinary people have virtually no access. Officially, special scientific importance zones, ecologically sensitive territories. Sections around Russian, American, and Chinese stations are closed. When independent researchers or documentary filmmakers try to reach them, permit problems arrive immediately, or bad weather, or equipment failure, or violations of international treaties. Conspiracy theorists are delighted. Secret bases, portals, ancient technology, UFOs. But even without the conspiracy theories, the reality looks curious. In the closed zones, deep drilling is genuinely underway. Seismic scanning, collection of biological samples. Information comes out in measured doses. Under the 1959 treaty, Antarctica belongs to all of humanity. The only continent without a state, without sovereignty, without a permanent population. In practice, this means the major players do whatever they like there, and humanity finds out years later, in a PDF, in a journal nobody reads, filed quietly between 2 other papers about ice cores. In 2026, a satellite photographs every meter of the planet. Data from any location is 3 clicks away. And yet there are places with an unofficial sign. None of your business. The sign itself is already information. Mystery number 10. Antarctica is melting, faster than we're told. Over the last 20 years, Antarctica has lost trillions of tons of ice. The West Antarctic ice sheet is already unstable. Beneath it, a branching network of subglacial rivers and lakes has been discovered, working like lubricant under a giant carpet and accelerating the slide of ice into the ocean. In some areas, the ice is losing meters of height per year. Between 2022 and 2025, several sudden large-volume water releases were recorded. Scientists call them pulses. If the West Antarctic sheet collapses entirely, global sea levels rise by 3 to 5 meters. Not a catastrophe 100 years away, the process is already running, and the models from the 2010s, it turns out, were too optimistic. The strangest part? Antarctica behaves unpredictably. In some regions, the ice is suddenly gaining mass. In others, it's accelerating its loss. Scientists build this into their models. The models don't converge, scientists update the models. This has been going on for several decades now. The point of no return, the moment after which the process runs itself without our participation, is, according to the latest data, closer than the 2010s assumed. How much closer depends on which model you ask. Antarctica isn't just melting. It has already made its decision. We haven't made ours yet. What we are left with: 10 mysteries, 1 continent, ice bleeding iron that's been sitting there for 1 million years. Beneath us, 400 isolated lakes with life that exists nowhere else. In the mountains, structures that nature explains, not very convincingly. Under the ice, an anomaly the size of a small country that nobody can account for. In the valleys, mummified seals that have been staring at the sky for thousands of years. And a glacier the size of France singing louder by the year. Antarctica is the only place on the planet where every new drill, every new satellite, every new expedition brings not answers, but different questions. We tend to think the Earth has been figured out. Antarctica keeps pulling something from under the ice that proves otherwise. Quietly, with obvious satisfaction, and with no intention of stopping. That's all from me. Other channels usually spend the outro begging you to like, subscribe, and comment. I won't even mention it. I'll just make the next video. You'll figure it out.